Some friends, Bob and Maria, visited us. We've known them since we got married. Maria used to work with my wife at a big travel agency with offices in many states. Bob supervises in a factory while I'm an electrician at a local one. We watched Same Time Next Year, a movie about two lovers meeting yearly despite being married to others. Our wives teared up when the lovers parted ways. "I can't believe you're romanticizing their infidelity," I scoffed. "So what? It's okay as long as they're true lovers meeting annually," Maria defended. Trina exploded, condemning my past relationship and insisting it's about genuine love, not affairs. Bob intervened, calling for a break from arguing over a movie. I pressed Bob, asking how he'd react if Maria wanted an annual affair. Bob refused, confident in Maria's fidelity. A tense moment passed between the women, leaving me uneasy. Maria affectionately sat on her husband's lap, while Trina, distant, offered drinks. We switched off the movie and gathered in the kitchen to play cards. Reflecting on past relationships, I realized my naivety in believing in everlasting love. My high school sweetheart, Melissa, went to another dance with Eric before I left for military duty. Despite promises, I couldn't shake the unease of her being with someone else. About 4 months into my deployment, my sister's letter revealed Melissa's pregnancy, news she hadn't shared in her letters. Fuming, I lashed out in a letter, ending our relationship. Ignoring her subsequent attempts at communication, I learned she married Eric, and they started a family. Overseas, I grappled with my newfound hero status, but deep down, I felt foolish and indifferent about my own safety. Returning from duty, I was astonished to receive commendations for bravery. Back in town, a celebratory gathering awaited me, filled with familiar faces. Amidst the crowd, I hoped to encounter a certain woman, but she avoided me, likely due to the harsh letter I had sent. Despite the festivities, memories of her actions lingered, overshadowing the joyous occasion. Amidst the dancing, I approached Trina, a former classmate once considered out of my league, now single after dating a high school star athlete named Zach Carter. Trina pursued a business degree at a local junior college and landed a job at a major travel agency. Meanwhile, Zach had relocated, presumably marrying a wealthy woman. As we reminisced and danced, we discovered our shared experiences of heartbreak, leading to a blossoming romance. After 6 months of cohabitation, we tied the knot, both sensing an upward trajectory in our relationship. I secured a job at a nearby factory while training as an electrician. Our mutual respect and shared interests fostered a deep bond, evident in our fulfilling bed life and genuine affection. Despite occasional curiosity about her adventurousness, we thrived as a couple, surrounded by friends and enjoying life's pleasures. While walking with Bob and Maria, Trina invited me to her travel agency's biennial convention. She explained they showcase tourist destinations and allow spouses to attend. Maria offered to accompany Trina, as Bob couldn't go. I agreed, seeing it as a chance for Trina to enjoy herself while I awaited her return. As the women excused themselves, Bob and I joked about avoiding the dull seminar. When Trina returned from the seminar, we had passionate closeness, leading to her pregnancy. Our baby girl, Renee, arrived on Valentine's Day, a cherished gift. Trina took a 3-month break, with my sister Jen assisting with childcare. Renee became my pride and joy, bringing immense joy to our family. Despite our happiness, Trina and I argued, often bringing up past relationships. Curious, I asked Jen about Melissa, learning she was a mother named Andrea. "When you see her next, mention I have a daughter," I suggested. Trina objected, deeming it rude. As Trina entered, we diverted the conversation. Despite efforts, thoughts of Melissa lingered, perhaps due to lingering affection or nostalgia for my first love. I pondered if others felt the same about their first loves, and if Trina had truly moved on from Zach. With Trina leaving for another seminar, I opted out, citing childcare duties with our 2-year-old daughter. After a night out with Maria and her other friend, we enjoyed passionate closeness once more. I considered encouraging her to go out more, as our encounters were always incredible upon her return. 2 months later, she discovered she was pregnant again, and 7 months later, Ashley, our second daughter, was born. With each passing Valentine's Day, our household seemed to grow happier. Despite ordinary life and occasional arguments, I often pondered whether our marriage would endure without our daughters. Upon obtaining my electrician's license, I juggled increased work hours for higher pay. Realizing how quickly the girls were growing up, I prioritized spending time with them. Despite getting along with Trina, our connection felt more like duty than love. Similar to many friends' marriages, ours appeared solid externally, but lacked depth behind closed doors. In an attempt to strengthen our relationship, I offered to accompany Trina to her next workshop. though it ended in lukewarm enthusiasm from both of us. Amidst the planning, Bob invited me on a fishing trip to Canada. While the girls were away at the seminar, I explained to Bob my commitment to joining Trina. "Rather fish than attend a seminar, Bob," I explained. "I've got the cabin booked and everything." Bob revealed Maria suggested I join their fishing trip. When Trina returned, she supported the idea, acknowledging it as my first vacation since becoming an electrician. Relieved, I called Bob to arrange my spot. Trina's understanding surprised me, leading to an enjoyable fishing trip. My sister watched the kids, granting Trina and me an extra night together upon our return. I had Trina in bed, engaging in passionate, rough lovemaking, aiming to conceive a son. Our efforts resulted in our third pregnancy, and Andrew Jr. was born the following February, coinciding with our other children's February birthdays. After deciding on a vasectomy, I informed Trina that 3 children were sufficient, sensing her neutrality on the matter. A year later, Jen mentioned Melissa wanted to talk privately, stirring conflicting emotions in me. Despite reservations, I visited Melissa's house, feeling torn between obligation and curiosity as I approached the doorbell. Any other time, I would have entered without hesitation, but today felt different. When Jen opened the door, I found myself speechless. The tension was palpable as I saw Melissa in Jen's kitchen, as stunning as ever, tears streaming down her face. Without expecting it, I moved to comfort her, holding her trembling hands. Melissa apologized repeatedly, her distress perplexing me. A decade ago, her tears might have brought me satisfaction, but now time seemed to have softened my emotions. Embracing her, I reassured her, noting the scent of familiarity. Melissa explained she had broken a promise made to her husband, Eric, for the sake of their daughter, Andrea. "You're right, Mel. I don't understand. What's going on?" Mel began to compose herself as Jen brought her tea. The 3 of us sat together, but Mel insisted Jen stay, as she needed to hear too. Mel revealed that her daughter, Andrea, faced severe jaundice from liver failure, requiring a transplant. Despite efforts, Mel wasn't a match, nor were any family members. When Jen mentioned Eric, Mel dropped the bombshell. Andrea's biological father was me. Overwhelmed, I struggled to comprehend. "Why didn't you tell me?" I demanded. "I can't believe you kept this from me. When you found out you were pregnant, you never gave me a chance to explain. You cut me off, calling me names. I wrote you a letter, but you never replied. I was livid when I received that letter and tossed it aside. I can't believe I acted so foolishly. I've resented you all these years. Why did you marry Eric? Does he know Andrea might not be his?" Mel smirked faintly. "You're still as unpredictable as ever. That's what I've always admired about you. Of course, Eric knew Andrea wasn't his. We never had relations until after marriage. I told him you were the father and wanted nothing to do with me. That's what you said. Eric cared deeply for me and, though proud, agreed to marry me under the condition that he be seen as Andrea's father. I felt trapped at 18. Eric and I wed, with me promising to never see you again and to portray Eric as Andrea's father. Despite my love for you, Eric understood. He's a decent man, and things went smoothly until Andrea's recent liver troubles. You're her only hope. I had to decide whether to tell you. Eric warned that if I revealed Andrea's true paternity, our marriage would end. But Andrea's well-being comes first. Will you undergo testing to see if you can be a donor?" Tears of hope filled her eyes. It was a weighty decision, with my marriage hanging in the balance. Committing to donate part of my liver to Mel's baby meant facing uncertain reactions. Yet I resolved to do what was morally right. I assured Mel I'd undergo testing to save Andrea's life, scheduling the appointment for Monday. Tears filled our eyes as Mel embraced me, professing her enduring love. Despite the emotional turmoil, I returned home, grappling with the revelation that Andrea was my daughter. The situation left me bewildered, navigating newfound complexities in my life. As I waited for Trina's return, I grappled with conflicting emotions, knowing her volatile mood might unsettle our children. The children had witnessed our frequent arguments. On Sunday, I took them to my mom's, promising Trina a quick return for an important discussion. Upon my return, Trina confronted me, questioning why we couldn't talk in front of the kids. I explained that I had spoken with Melissa and we needed to address a serious matter: her daughter's urgent need for a liver transplant due to jaundice. Trina expressed skepticism about our involvement, questioning why Mel would confide in me. Confirming Mel's claim that I could be the father of her daughter, I admitted my surprise. Despite Trina's concerns about our family, I emphasized the urgency of Andrea's situation and my obligation to help. Trina's anger was palpable, accusing me of prioritizing Mel and her daughter over our own family. Despite her accusations, I asserted my commitment to saving Andrea's life and potentially embracing fatherhood if the test confirms paternity. I urged Trina to set aside her resentment and consider the gravity of the situation. I'm against it, Andrew. Despite your feelings for her, she's not my concern. I have my own children to worry about, and I don't want her in our home if she survives. You're acting despicably. I'll help the girl if I can, but I won't tolerate your affection for her mother. You're still hung up on her, aren't you? You're pitiful, Andrew. Go be with your old girlfriend and donate your liver to her daughter. Maybe she'll take you back after I kick you out. I'll be watching you closely. After picking up the kids, Trina barely spoke to me when she came home. I knew life was going to be difficult from now on. At the hospital, I waited while they conducted tests. In Andrea's room, Mel was conversing with her daughter. Andrea, small due to liver issues, resembled her mother and looked no older than my 6-year-old daughter. Mel smiled warmly when she noticed me. "Thank you for coming," she said. Andrea looked at me with hopeful eyes. "Are you my guardian angel?" she asked. "Mom said you'd be here today to help me. Are you him?" I smiled gently. "I'm not exactly an angel, but I'm here hoping I can give you what you need. We'll know soon. You're Andy, right? Mom named me after you. Did you know that? We talk all the time, sharing secrets. When I'm better, I'll share them with you," Mom said. "That's sweet. Despite how young I may look, I'm 10 and pretty smart. Do you have siblings?" Her words intrigued me. Did she know the truth about me? "Yes, honey. I have 3 younger kids. When you're well, I'll introduce them to you." "That'd be nice. I don't have siblings to play with, so maybe I could borrow yours." She smiled weakly, tubes attached to her face. "Rest now, sweetie. Save your strength," Mel said, comforting her daughter. Andrea nodded, drifted off, and Mel assured me, "She knows more than you think. We'll share our secrets when she's better." Mel escorted me to the lab, where we were directed to the doctor's office to wait for him. "Mr. Connors, you're an excellent match for Andrea. While the ideal donor would be a child, we can transplant a portion of your liver into her," the doctor explained. "Doctor, she's my daughter. Please refer to her as such," I insisted. The doctor nodded with a smile. "Well, Mr. Connors, your daughter has a promising chance for recovery, although it may take some time for her body to adjust, given her age. We expect a swift recovery," he continued. "What about me, Doc? What's the procedure in recovery like?" I inquired. "You'll undergo anesthesia while we extract part of your liver. Afterward, expect a period of discomfort akin to being knocked by a truck. Bed rest for a month is necessary, and you'll need at least 6 weeks off work. Your body will gradually heal over the following year," the doctor elaborated. "Sounds serious, Doc. Thanks for being candid. It's clear my daughter's fortunate to have me. But what's the catch?" I asked. The doctor chuckled. "The catch is, we need to proceed swiftly. I suggest surgery as soon as possible, preferably tomorrow," he replied. "Tomorrow? Let's aim for Wednesday instead. I need to arrange time off from work and get the necessary paperwork. Can you accommodate that?" I requested. "Agreed. My secretary will handle the paperwork for Wednesday. Until then, Mr. Connors," the doctor confirmed. "Just call me Andy, Doc. Looks like we'll be spending quite some time together," I remarked. Mel held onto my hand tightly as we made our way back to Andrea's room. Though tears filled her eyes, they were tears of happiness. "I'm at a loss for words, Andy. You're pausing your life for a few months to help my daughter. I'm doing this for her, too." "I couldn't live with myself if I didn't," she confessed. "As for us, Mel, I'm uncertain about what lies ahead. I'm committed to my marriage, and I'd never betray my wife. My feelings for you have always been there. However, we've both moved on with our lives. Regardless, I want us to remain friends, and I want Andrea to be part of my life," I explained. Bending down, I planted a gentle kiss on Andrea's forehead. "Rest well, my dear daughter. Daddy loves you," I whispered, feeling tears well up as I left the hospital. Upon my discharge, I visited my boss to explain the situation. He expressed surprise at not knowing about my children's illness. I opted not to delve into details, but thanked him for assisting with paperwork and insurance. He assured me my job would be waiting upon my return. Upon arriving home, Trina awaited me. "So, this is your child?" she asked. "Yes, Andrea is my daughter. Surgery's scheduled for Wednesday. I've sorted insurance and work arrangements. I'll be on sick leave for 6 weeks," I confirmed. "So you're really going through with this? What about our kids? Will you tell them about their sibling?" "Our children are 2, 4, and 6 years old. If I explain that I'm helping save another child's life, they'll understand. They know I'll always be there for them. I'll talk to them tonight, so they understand why I won't be around for a while. Jen said she'll assist you until I return." Oh, yes, your beloved sister Jen will be here. You know she can be a handful sometimes. Don't say that. Don't disrespect my sister. She's like a second mother to our kids, and you know it. If you don't need her help, just let her know. I'm sure she'll understand. Trina fell silent and left the room. I called the girls over to explain. Andy Jr. tagged along, oblivious to our conversation. I shared that they had an older sick sister. I did my best to clarify the situation. The girls were near tears. "Save her, Daddy. You have to help her if you can," Renee pleaded. "I will, sweetheart. I'll be away for a few days until I recover. I'll call and speak with you daily until I'm back. When your sister is better, I'll take you to see her. Aunt Jen will look after you while I'm gone. Be good for her and Mommy, okay?" "We'll be good, Daddy. We promise." On Wednesday, I arrived at the hospital. Before entering the room, I briefly checked on Andrea. She seemed nervous, but smiled. "Hey, Andy. I'm glad you're here. I couldn't have done it without you." She had a bit of me in her, you know. She's a sweet, caring girl. I've only known her for a couple of days, but I'm so proud of her. I turned around to find Mel standing there, shaking nervously. "It's going to be okay, Mel. Andrea's ready, and so am I." She leaned in and kissed me, a genuine display of love. "Thank you, Andy. I'll never forget what you're doing for our daughter." Looking back at Andrea, I realized she had overheard her mother's words. She smiled at me, as if to say, "Thank you, Daddy." In my room, I prepared for surgery. Upon waking, the doctor warned me about the recovery process. He wasn't exaggerating. I felt awful. A nurse came in, adjusted my pain medication, and ran some tests. I looked around, but no one was there. I knew Mel would be with her daughter, but I hoped Trina would change her mind and visit me. I drifted off to sleep and later woke to voices. It was my sister Jen and Mel. "Hey, little bro. How you holding up? You look rough," she chuckled. We always bantered like this. She was the best sister anyone could ask for. Married, but no kids. We just never discussed why. "Jen, please, no laughing. It hurts like crazy. How did it go? Is Andrea okay?" Mel says it's too soon to tell, but the doc is optimistic. Surgery went well. Now we pray her body accepts the liver. "Heck, he's taking my liver. I don't give my organs away like candy," I chuckled, wincing at the pain. "Andy, I owe you big time. You saved our daughter's life. She's still my daughter, even though we're not married. I'll visit her regularly. My kids can't wait to meet their big sis." "What about Trina?" "I tried to talk, but she'd always walk away. I just wanted to be pals, but she wasn't having it. I hope Andrea bonds with your kids." "Trina never mentioned talking to you. Never. I'll bring my kids to see Andrea. They're eager and asked for her speedy recovery. I promised I'd make that happen." We chatted for a bit. Then the doctor visited. Jen and Mel said they'd catch up later. The doctor updated me on my health and Andrea's. Despite feeling awful, I called home to check on the kids. Trina answered, asking how I was. "Okay, I guess, just calling to say hi to the kids. Not up for much chatting, especially with Trina. I might drop by tomorrow after work. Been swamped today," Trina mentioned, passing the phone to the kids, who eagerly chatted away. Told them we'd talk more tomorrow, but I wanted them to know I'm okay and miss them. "How's the girl, Daddy? Feeling better?" Renee inquired. "She seems to be. Need some rest now, girls. Give Andy a kiss for me. Love and miss you all." "We love you too, Daddy. Bye." Trina visited the next day, asking about Andrea and my health, though she seemed more obligated than genuinely concerned. She mostly discussed a Chicago meeting a month away, figuring I'd be out of the hospital by then to watch the kids. Trina mentioned Jen was watching our kids, hinting at her willingness to visit me. Her presence left me questioning the state of our marriage. Though I lacked solid evidence, I sensed she harbored secrets, relying more on intuition than any sixth sense. After a brief kiss, she promised to return in a couple of days and left. When Mel entered, the atmosphere shifted, prompting me to reflect on my marital choice. Despite realizing I may have married the wrong person, I resolved to salvage the relationship for my children's sake. I remained committed to them, even in a loveless marriage. I faithfully called my kids every night, enjoying their banter over who got to speak to me. Even little Andy managed to utter "Dada." Trina, Jen, and Mel visited regularly during my hospital stay, the latter practically living there between caring for Andrea and me. Although I knew I'd miss her once discharged, repairing my marriage took priority. Work colleagues and Mom also visited, the latter showing unwavering support since my ICU discharge. She never vocalized it, but her actions conveyed acceptance of Andrea as her granddaughter. Such unspoken understanding is typical of grandmothers' love for their grandchildren. I inquired about Erica's upcoming divorce from Mel. He's relocating to California. Despite being a bit of a geek, he's a good guy. I'll miss him. We're staying friends. He's tech-savvy and found a job in Silicon Valley. He'll make a great husband for someone else, she explained. Curious about Mel's livelihood, I asked, "What's your profession, Mel? How will you manage?" She revealed, "I handle billing for medical facilities from home. Eric, being a computer whiz, set up my system. We've divided assets fairly. I'll continue payments and manage on my own. After clearing debts, we'll split savings. No alimony. It wouldn't be fair to him or his child," she explained tearfully. Later, Eric unexpectedly visited, catching me off guard. "I hope he isn't here to argue. He'd surely win." "Andy, I'm here to express my gratitude," he said. "Gratitude? You saved Andrea's life," I responded, puzzled. "Yes, and I'll miss her sweetness. I leave for California tomorrow. Andrea's responding well to your liver," he informed. "Eric, perhaps you and Mel can reconcile. She values your respect, Andy." "Let's not pretend. If Mel loved me like she loves you, I'd have stayed. I played second fiddle for years, hoping she'd choose me, but she never did. Our marriage was good, but I need love, not just respect. Can you relate? We're inseparable, but our heart's with you. I can't go on, especially since Andrea isn't my biological daughter. Look after my family. Computers are my passion, so I'll be in Silicon Valley. Thanks for giving Andrea another chance. You're a great person, Andy. Eric." "I'm sorry. What about Andrea? She'll miss you, the only father she's known." Our relationship with Mel was based on respect. We decided my name wouldn't be on Andrea's birth certificate. "Mel put your name, saying you were overseas. I think Andrea knows about you and Melissa. She'll miss me, but she needs a father figure. Why not you? Thanks again. Take care of them both." Before I could react, Eric left. I pondered the complexity of my home life. I had a wife, 3 kids, and a solid marriage. Yet there was my ex-girlfriend and the daughter I donated a kidney to. Quite a situation, I thought. Eventually, I returned home, restricted from lifting anything heavy. My daughters understood, but Andy, not so much, wanting to be held. Yet he settled for sitting close. Trina went to work daily, and our interactions were civil upon her return. Jen visited daily, offering assistance. I kept Mom informed about my progress. She helped by taking care of the kids every few days, allowing me rest. During my recovery, I refrained from contacting Mel directly. Jen kept tabs on Andrea's progress. When Andrea returned home, my daughters eagerly wanted to meet her. Unable to drive, we all went to Mel's in Jen's van. Mel's home was stunning, impeccably furnished and spotless. I reminded my kids to be quiet, as Andrea was unwell. Mel greeted them warmly, introducing herself as just Mel. Leading my daughters to Andrea's room, she unveiled a radiant, healthy-looking Andrea. I was taken aback by her transformation, free from the jaundice that had plagued her. "Hey," Andrea greeted. "I'm your big sister. Well, sort of big." She grinned, noticing Renee's height. Wondering about her little brother, Jen entered, holding Andy. Andrea warmly welcomed him as my sweet brother from the other mom. Tears welled in my eyes, shared by Mel and Jen, as we witnessed this heartwarming moment. As Andy joined his new big sister on the bed, I realized Andrea must have been told about our connection. Over the next few hours, the kids bonded, reluctant to leave when it was time for Andrea to rest. Promising they could return soon, I reassured them of frequent visits. Leaving Mel's, I braced myself for Trina's reaction when I mentioned our visit. Surprisingly, she remained calm as the girls excitedly shared about meeting their big sister. However, before bedtime, the kids unleashed a barrage of accusations at me, which I tried to diffuse by explaining Jen's presence. Trina, though, suspected an affair, despite my assurances of innocence. After a heated exchange, we retired for the night, but Trina refused to share the bed. Over time, our relationship began to mend, and I focused on my recovery, heeding the doctor's advice to wait before returning to work. Trina reminded me of her upcoming trip to Chicago, leaving me to handle childcare. Thankfully, Andy's spirits lifted as I could now pick him up. The following week, our friends joined us for a movie night, opting for same time next year. To recap from the beginning, there was tension between Maria and Melissa. Trina shared a secretive moment with Maria before they left. Since the surgery, things had been strained between Trina and me, and our closeness had dwindled. Despite initial resistance, we eventually made love. It puzzled me why her affection was limited to those moments. The next day, while tidying up, I found birth control pills on the dresser. Surprised, as I had undergone a vasectomy a year ago, I resolved to discuss it with her later, hoping for a valid explanation for their use. I searched for anything else of interest, but found nothing. We rarely used the computer at home and shared the same email address, which was normal. I skimmed through a few phone bills, but found nothing unusual. Maybe I was being paranoid. When Trina returned home, I questioned her about the birth control pills. Why were you snooping through my things? You had no right. I live here too, just like you. I wasn't snooping. After our great night last night, I was tidying up and noticed the pills while putting away clothes. Can you explain why you're taking them when I had a vasectomy? You idiot. You claim to trust me, then interrogate me. Let me tell you why I need the pill. A few months ago, I had issues with my period, so I consulted a doctor. She suggested the pill to regulate my cycle. Why didn't you tell me about your health problems? What would you have done? Would you have given me pills or advised me to see a doctor as I did? Besides, you were preoccupied with your other family members. I didn't want to burden you with my health issues at the time. This is inappropriate, Trina. You're my wife, and you mean a lot to me. I'm sorry for doubting you, but seeing the pills made me anxious. I was afraid you might be having an affair. I apologize. Okay? Now you understand why I take the pills. Not because I want to, but because my doctor recommended them. After our conversation, I felt relieved. Though I still had doubts, I wanted to trust her. Thursday night, we made love again, almost like a repeat of before. Friday morning, she was in high spirits, kissing the kids and me goodbye before heading to Chicago. I asked her to return soon so we could pick up where we left off. On Saturday, I took the kids to see Mel and Andrea, spending the day together like one big happy family. I wished my life with Trina could be as harmonious instead of constant bickering. While there were some feelings between Mel and me, we both agreed it was best not to act on them. On Sunday, while watching TV with the kids, there was a knock at the door. It was two old high school friends, April and Mandy, gathering information for our upcoming reunion. They got our address from Melissa. I'd forgotten she had given it to me. Inviting them in, I served tea as we caught up, and they asked about what's new in my life and where I'm working. I shared a few details from our book, like joining the service and my current job. I skipped mentioning the operation, unsure if Melissa had already told them. Then they asked about Trina, so I mentioned her job at a travel agency. I explained. Mandy seemed surprised. This is strange, she said. What's odd about working at a travel agency? I inquired. Her ex, Zach Carter, works there too, but in Chicago. It's peculiar, old flames at the same company, but in different states. How do you know? I asked. We spoke to his mother recently. She told us all about him, how successful he is. Remember in high school, everyone wanted to date him? His mom says he's still fit, works out daily. Can I have his profile? Trina might want to reconnect. I didn't need it for Trina. I wanted it for myself. I sensed something fishy. After obtaining Zach's details, I bid farewell to my classmates. I debated calling Bob for info on Zach, but refrained, not wanting to implicate Maria. Instead, I rang Trina's room in Chicago. After 5 rings, she answered, sounding out of breath. Hi, she greeted. Good morning, dear wife. How are you? Why are you calling, Andy? Remember, only emergencies. Are the kids okay? Kids are fine, but their dad's upset. Why call, Andy? It's Sunday. No meetings today, right? Forgot. Having a secret meeting with Zach now. Interrupting your fun time? Sorry. Enough, Andy. We'll talk next week. You idiot. I hear him. Hanging up now. Talk later. Talk now or I'll burn it down. Heard Zach whispering. Tell him to hush or I'll call his wife. Senator. Please, Andy, don't. Heard her say something. Zach, stop. He knows. Can't hide. How long? Maybe 7 years. Couldn't get rid of him. Wanted his baby. Please, Andy. Not now. Later. Whose kids am I raising? Yours or your lover's? Answer me. Andy, I honestly don't know. Wow. Honesty isn't your strong suit. Maybe I'll sue my lover for child support. The senator might want to help. Don't say that. I've been honest. I never cheated. You blamed me, but you had fun with him for 7 years. What do I say now? Andy, I don't know. We'll talk later. We'll divorce and test the kids. If they're mine, I'll take them. No, you can't. I hung up and called Bob for Maria's number. Bob, Andy, lost Trina's number, need Maria's. Sure, any problem? No, just a question. I called Maria. Andy, Trina's not here. I can have her call. Cut it, Maria. I know where she is and what she's doing. I have no idea what you're talking about, she said, trying to call my bluff. But I wasn't bluffing. Room 804. Is that Carter? Answer my questions or I'll talk to your husband. Are you trying to blackmail me, Bob? No blackmail. Just thought if Trina had an affair and you knew, maybe you had one too. Tell me, or I'll tell Bob about Trina. What do you want to know, Andy? Did you sleep with Bob too? Another ex? Please don't tell Bob. I did it twice and regret it deeply. Who was with Maria? Please, I confessed. It was a friend of Zach's. I want to move on. Don't tell Bob. Tell me about Trina and Zach, and I won't tell Bob. Deal? Okay, I trust you. Trina had an affair with Zach at seminars. She admitted she always loved him and regretted marrying you. They stayed in their room, hardly attended meetings, and went out to dinner. What about my kids? I don't know. She wished all 3 kids were Zach's as a way to get back at you. It made no sense to me. Are my kids actually Zach's? I'm not sure. She hoped they were, but she doesn't really know. Trina, Maria, and I are divorcing, and I'll test the kids to determine paternity. I won't tell Bob about this, but I won't lie to him otherwise. You're not welcome here anymore. I needed to talk to someone, but involving Mel seemed unwise. I called my sister Jen urgently. We discussed scenarios, and I felt lost. I understand why temporary insanity pleas exist. I'd lose it if Zach or Trina showed up now. Jen and I decided to call Zach's wife. She deserved to know. I found his home number and called, reaching the receptionist. I asked for Mrs. Carter. After a pause, she said to wait. Who's calling? I'm Andrew Connors from Ohio. Is this Mrs. Carter? Yes, but I'm Senator Conroy. My husband's Carter. Senator, your husband's at the hotel with my wife. Thought you should know. He claimed he ended things with that married woman. Is her name Trina? Yes, that's her. Trina Connors, soon to be my ex-wife. Mr. Connors, thank you for informing me. I can't talk now, but my team will contact you soon. I'd prefer to speak with you directly. I don't need anything from you, just wanted to let you know about your husband's infidelity. I hung up, realizing she likely knew. I wondered if Trina was his only affair. Now I awaited Trina's arrival to begin divorce proceedings. The toughest part would be getting tested to confirm paternity. What if they're not mine? I'd raised them as my own since birth. Around midnight, there was a knock. I hugged my kids, pondering their paternity. I wanted a drink, but post-surgery, hard drinks was off limits. The knock came again. It was Officer Bates. Are you Andrew Connors? Yes, that's me. What's wrong? Your wife has passed away in a car accident in Illinois. I was stunned. Just moments ago, I loathed her, but now she was gone. It was hard to believe. I wished it was a nightmare, but it wasn't. What happened, officer? Are you certain it was her? I murmured. I'm sorry, Mr. Connors. It was an accident. Both passengers died on impact. You said they. The other person was Maria? No, sir, it was Zach Carter. Did you know him? I was shocked. I thought it might have been Trina and Maria returning early, but it wasn't. Yes, he worked in the Chicago office. What time did it happen? Around 7 o'clock. We wanted you to be informed promptly. Thank you, officer, I replied, closing the door, feeling a mix of emotions. Fear, hate, love, and loss consumed me. Tomorrow, I had to tell my kids their mom was gone. I couldn't sleep. Tomorrow would be agonizing. Trina was gone, and I had 3 children to care for. It might not even be mine. I wouldn't wish that situation on anyone. I must have nodded off in my chair. At 7 in the morning, the telephone woke me up. The caller ID said, "Personal call." I answered it. Mr. Andrew Connors, a voice said. Yes, that's him. Who's calling? 1 second, sir, the voice said. Then I heard the female voice from yesterday. Mr. Connors, this is Senator Janice Conroy. Under the circumstances, I'd prefer to be called by my first name. I know you've been informed of the accident. I'm very sorry for your loss. But I need to talk to you. I need a big favor, Janice. You lost your husband, too. I know the situation is not going to be the best for either of us. What kind of service do you need? Can you not mention the affair between my husband and your wife? I know it will sound bad, but it will ruin my political future. There is nothing I can do right now to change the situation, but it will ruin my life. So you want me to lie and say it didn't happen? No, of course not. I just don't want you to talk about this affair in the press. You're going to get a few calls. I can take care of it from this side and let it go quietly. But I know someone will be looking for a story here. It's not going to be good for either of us. Janice, I won't interfere with personal matters if you will do 2 things for me. What do you want? I'll do it if I can. I want a real account of this accident, the one the high-ranking people are hiding. I also need a copy of Zach's DNA. You know what that's for? I'll do my best. I'll be expecting him shortly after the funeral. Please don't take me for some kind of swagger. I want to know. No. I need to know the truth at all costs. I'll get you what you want. I trust you'll keep the affair between us. I always honor my word, Janice. Always. Good. I'll send you the reports promptly. Thank you. After hanging up, I brewed some coffee. Despite the early hour, I called Jen and informed her about the accident. It surprised her, but she promised to come over immediately. Since my parents were early risers, I informed them too. Then came the difficult part. I phoned Trina's parents. Her father answered, and I delivered the heartbreaking news. I recounted the details as best I could, explaining that Trina and Zach had been out for dinner and were on their way to the hotel when the accident occurred. They asked me to stay in touch, and I assured them I would. Once my kids were up, I prepared breakfast for them. When Jen arrived, we gathered the children in the living room and broke the tragic news. Renee, Ashley, you need to be very brave. Mom's gone, and she won't be coming home. Tears welled in their eyes, and they began to cry. Seeing their sorrow, little Andy joined in. It was heart-wrenching to witness my children in tears. I hugged each of them, letting them grieve. Though I tried to stay strong, tears streamed down my own face. I comforted the girls while Jen consoled Andy, doing our best to address their questions. Jen welcomed Mel inside, and she expressed her condolences, both she and Andrea visibly upset. Ashley sought comfort in Mel's arms while Andrea sat beside her mother. Surprised, I asked Mel how she knew. Jen explained she had called her after my call. I didn't mind. Once the children settled a bit, Andrea offered to take them to their rooms for games. It was a relief. Shortly after they left, the phone rang with journalists seeking answers. Frustrated, I hung up, but Jen took over, sternly telling them off for bothering us during such a difficult time. We turned on the news, and a report aired about a local woman's homicide in Chicago. She was with Senator Janice Conroy's husband, identified as Trina Connors. The senator claimed Trina was an associate of Zach Carter and had left their dinner plans earlier. She's deeply saddened by her husband's loss and extends condolences to Mr. Connors and his family in Ohio. We'll provide updates as they emerge. With the incessant calls, it seemed we needed a story for the reporters. I'll take the next call, I told Jen. Hello? Yes, Andrew Connors speaking. I'm puzzled by these calls. Here's what I know. Zach Carter and my wife Trina work at the same travel agency, but in different states. They had dinner and were heading back to her place when the accident occurred. The caller persisted with questions. Yes, I spoke with my wife that morning. They've been friends since high school. I knew Zach too. We all attended the same high school. It's a tragic accident, and she'll be sorely missed by me and our 3 children. For further inquiries, I suggest contacting your senator. I ended the call. Jen and I took turns fielding the calls, knowing they wouldn't stop until we gave them something. The phone kept ringing incessantly, but Jen calling Mel was a lifesaver, helping us juggle kids, phones, and the door. We got numerous calls from neighbors and friends, adding to our existing stress. Lawyers kept calling, offering representation for any potential lawsuits, but we firmly declined. By day's end, the calls eased up. Mel prepared lunch with food brought by neighbors. It felt odd receiving food when appetite was low, but it spared us cooking. Then, a TV reporter unexpectedly knocked on our door. "May I speak with you, Mr. Connors?" asked the woman with the microphone, followed by the cameraman. "Who do you think you are? Showing up at my house a day after my wife's pass away for what? Gossip?" "No need to swear," Mr. Connors replied. "It's for television." "Forget your TV. I lost my wife. My kids lost their mother, and all you care about is news. Maybe you can photograph her body on the highway for more readers." "Sickening." "We just want the truth, Mr. Connors." "No, you want a lie to sell. Here's the truth. My wife and Zach were high school friends years ago." "Did they have a romantic relationship, Mr. Connors?" "Romantic relationship? They were just teenagers at 16. Would you call that romance? You're mistaken. I'm married with 3 children, aged 2, 4, and 6. My wife works full-time at a travel agency. Tell me, when could she possibly have had a passionate affair with her ex-boyfriend living 2 states away?" "But she was with him." "Yes, they had a business meeting in Chicago and grabbed dinner afterward. It's not uncommon for old friends to catch up over dinner. I spoke to her the day before, and if you followed your own news station, you'd know Senator Conroy was supposed to join them for dinner. Your aim seems to be spreading scandal and disrupting lives." As little Andy peeked out of the storm door, I held back the urge to unleash my fury. Imagine telling my son that his mother was nothing but a cheater, just eager for an affair with her ex. To insinuate she didn't love him, only craved another woman's husband. I wanted to lash out, but out of respect for the kids, I held back. "You sicken me. I've said I wouldn't wish this on anyone, but for you, I might reconsider. Let some reporter tear your life apart with false accusations, and see how you like it. Here's a warning. If I catch a single lie about my family on your network, you'll be facing a lawsuit along with your channel. You're not welcome here, and there are no celebrities to chase after. Now get off my property." When I returned home, I embraced my son tightly, and he hugged me back. Jen noticed something was amiss, but hopefully the reporters hadn't caught on. Things settled down afterward. The kids resumed playing, and Jen and Mel discussed funeral plans. Trina's body was due in 2 days, and we aimed for a prompt funeral. The women assured me they'd handle everything, which relieved me, as I wasn't adept at such matters. Later, I overheard Ashley and Andrea in the room. "I miss my mom," Ashley said. "I understand, Ash. I miss my dad. His name was Eric. He wasn't my real dad, but I miss him. He was always there." "Why did he leave you?" Ashley asked. "Because he wasn't my real father. Dads shouldn't leave their little girls." "It's not nice," Ashley replied. "It's okay. I have a new dad now, and he's your dad too." "Ashley, do you think your mom will be my mom too? Since we share the same dad, why can't we have the same mom?" Tears welled up in my eyes hearing my daughter's words, but I stayed silent, not wanting them to know I was listening. "Let's talk to Dad, Ash. I'll talk to Mom, and we'll see. But no matter what, I'll always be your big sister, and you can always count on me." I watched as Andrea embraced Ashley. In the following days, the calls dwindled. A reporter who visited focused on Trina's positive traits to avoid any legal issues. A high-profile celebrity divorce overshadowed our accident news. Jen and Mel efficiently handled the funeral arrangements. Trina was laid to rest within 2 days, and the turnout was overwhelming. Jen and I greeted guests while Mel tended to her kids. Despite the sadness, seeing her with the children brought a mix of emotions. We said our farewells to Trina, shedding tears and sharing moments of laughter amidst the sorrow. Mel arranged a luncheon through her church, providing closure and a chance for us to mingle with friends. I even expressed gratitude to Maria and Bob for attending, advising Maria to learn from Trina's tragic fate. She should fight for her marriage. She hugged me gratefully for keeping our secret. I hoped she'd learn from Trina's errors. Mel and Jen asked about keeping Trina's belongings. I suggested giving the jewelry to the girls. They saved most for later, but gave some to the girls to play with. Mel admired Trina's clothes, and I offered them to her, given their similar sizes. Jen found this amusing. "You're clueless. Giving your late wife's clothes to your ex? Not happening." Mel liked them. "I was just trying to be accommodating. Women, huh?" Jen suggested selling the clothes at a garage sale for a fair price. Next on their agenda was a phone call I received from a familiar voice. After hanging up, I asked the girls to take the kids out for a couple of hours, explaining I had someone coming over. As they left, Senator Janice Conroy arrived with her driver. I welcomed her in and was surprised by her appearance, pleasant but likely in her 50s, which surprised me as Zach was our age. She handed me a manila envelope containing an unofficial accident report and Zach's DNA card. Offering her coffee, she thanked me for my discretion regarding the affair. The insurance company contacted her about settling the matter. "Janice, I don't want your money. I just want closure so my family and I can move forward. You'll receive numerous calls from lawyers promising millions, but these cases can drag on for years. The insurance company wants to settle it quickly, and so do I. They've made an offer. If you accept, the case closes, and you won't be bothered further." "What's the offer?" "It's the insurance company's money. They'll give $100,000 for each of your children deposited into a trust. It's paid out when they turn 18, and you control the account until they're 25. "Why are they offering this?" "No offense was committed. It's to avoid prolonged legal battles. They'll also cover medical expenses from the accident, totaling $400,000. I have 4 children, not 3. My second daughter should get her share. I'll ensure all 4 are covered. If we're done, I'd like..." "Before you go, can you tell me about you and Zach? Why did it continue after you knew?" "I believe so. You deserve the truth. I met Zach in college, and despite our age gap, we became friends. He was like a trophy husband, accompanying me to events. He wanted a travel agency, so I bought one for him. He had affairs, including with your wife, but I warned him to stop. The accident report suggests he was punched from behind, causing him to lose control. Why didn't he leave? I held the money and power. He had nothing without me. The accident report suggests he was punched from behind. What does the report say? It suggests his car was knocked from behind, causing it to spin out of control and crash into a tree. Janice, are you responsible for their passaways? I don't personally believe so. There are powers beyond my control. I cared for Zach in my own way like a toy. This may be our last conversation. The report you'll receive has the names redacted for safety. I'm sorry for your loss. After Janice left, I found the report as promised. It revealed Trina's affair with Zach. The DNA report was complete. I couldn't help but wonder if Janice had any involvement in the accident. When the others returned, I shared the news with them, and they were surprised to learn about our visitor. They wanted to read the report. Are you sure you want to read this? It's heavy stuff, and you might not like what you see. Mel gave me a caring look. Andy, I care about you, so I'll hold back my curiosity. You don't have to face everything alone. Sometimes sharing can ease the burden. She smiled kindly. As they read the report, they were saddened, much like me. They hoped Trina would feel remorse. Earlier, I had shared some of what Janice Conroy told me. My sister Jen suggested, maybe Trina's pass away is a blessing in disguise. It could have been far worse if the situation continued, especially for the kids. I knew she was right, though she spoke the thought aloud. That was Jen, never shy about speaking her mind. Later, I sat at my desk, reviewing the report and Zach's DNA. Mel joined me. What's your plan with that? She gestured to Zach's DNA report. I have an appointment tomorrow to find out if Zach is the biological father. Don't do it, Andy. For your sake and the kids, please reconsider. I need to know, Mel. I need to understand why. But why now? Zach and Trina are gone, and knowing won't change anything. What if you're not the biological father? Will you give up the kids? Please, Andy, think about it. You've been their father in every sense. Don't let doubt overshadow that. Promise me you'll consider it, Andy, for your children's sake. All right, I'll mull it over tonight if we head out. I'll swing by tomorrow after we're done, I assured Mel. She gave me a light kiss, and then she called Andrea, and they headed home. True to my word, I pondered it all that night. The next day, by mid-afternoon, I arrived at Mel's place. The kids dashed out of the car and raced into her house. Andrea was at school, but Mel had given them permission to play in her room. Renee was meant to be at school, but I had already arranged for her to stay home the day before. You didn't, did you? Mel whispered. Sorry, but I made a promise to the kids, I admitted. What? You did it for them? What are you talking about? I promised them a trip to McDonald's for lunch, and I intend to keep my word. So you didn't follow through? Well, different kind of promise. Not about lunch. No, I thought about what you said. They're my kids, and they always will be. Let's keep it that way. What's next? I settled on the couch, and Mel perched on my lap. Since the funeral, we'd grown closer, apart from the occasional kiss. Being near her felt wonderful. She was an incredible woman. You'll mourn for a bit, we'll start dating, and eventually you'll propose. I'll say yes, and we'll live happily ever after. Just like a fairy tale. A radiant smile lit up her face. I grinned too. What if I don't want to marry you? I teased. Then I'll just move in with you. Losing you once was enough. Besides, babies seem to like me, and I adore them. And what about lovemaking? Are you any good? I burst into laughter. Darling, it won't just be lovemaking with you. It'll be love, and it'll be amazing. Mel joined in the laughter. Just then, Andrea returned from school. Seeing Mel on my lap, she beamed. Renee, Ashley, Andy, come quick. There's something you have to see. Mel remained still as the children entered, with Andy trailing behind. They greeted Mel with smiles. Ashley spoke up first. Are you going to be our mom now that ours is gone? Tears welled in Mel's eyes as she rose from my lap, approached Ashley, and embraced her. Darling, I'd be honored to be your mom. Your other mom will always be in your hearts, and I'll be here to take care of you. Andy approached for a hug, and Mel embraced him. Renee then turned to me. Dad, when are you getting married, and where will we live? Well, sweetheart, I want to make sure you kids are on board with us getting married first. Of course, Dad. What a silly question. We already love Mel, and you're Andreas. Dad, we just want to know where we're going to live. Honey, I haven't even proposed to Mel yet. We'll do it, Dad. Propose right now. All the kids chimed in. Do it, Dad. Even little Andy. I chuckled, and Mel teared up. Taking her hand as she stood, I knelt before her. Mel, my children and I adore you. Will you be their mom and my wife? I'll need to get you a ring to make it official. I hadn't planned on doing it today, but I can't think of a better time or better witnesses. Before I could finish, the kids were urging. Answer him, Mommy. Answer him. Interestingly, even before she replied, they began calling her Mommy. How much longer do I have to ponder this, kids? It's a big step, Mel said, a smile playing on her lips. Just a moment, Mom, Andrea replied. We both know you've wanted this your whole life. There goes another secret. Andrea glanced back at me, smiling. Mel attempted to appear serious, but she wasn't very convincing. After careful thought, I agreed. Yes, Andrew Connors, I'll marry you. The kids cheered, urging, Kiss her, Daddy, seal the deal. It felt amazing. Kids, just so you know, we won't marry right away. We have much to do first, but we'll see each other almost every day, Mel explained. She avoided explaining waiting after Trina's pass away, but said they could call her mom if they wished. After the kids returned to Andrea's room, I glanced at a smiling Mel. That went smoothly, she chuckled. Are we going to have lovemaking if we start dating? Can we do it on the first date? I questioned. Anytime you want, honey. We don't even need to wait for a date, she assured me before dialing my sister Jen on the phone. What's going on? I inquired. Jen's coming to take the kids to see Happy Feet. Honey, I have a question for you. Are we going to stay here and do what we talked about earlier? Before I could respond, she called the kids back into the room. Kids, Aunt Jen and Uncle Ralph are taking you to see Happy Feet. Daddy and I have things to do, but we'll be here when you get back. Behave for Aunt Jen and Uncle Ralph, understand? Yes, Mom, we hear you, Andrea replied with a smile. Jen and Ralph arrived a few minutes later. Ashley hurried to them with news of our impending wedding and an invitation. Mom and Dad are getting married, and you're invited. But we haven't set a date yet, she announced. Jen glanced at us. Surprise, huh? Her smile indicated her approval. Renee spilled the beans. Dad proposed in front of us all. It was amazing. They sealed it with a kiss, they all chimed in, with Ralph grinning until nudged by Jen. Well, congrats, Jen said. Let's take the kids to the movies so you can finish up your business. We'll grab pizza on the way home, giving you about 3 hours. Hopefully, you'll wrap things up by then. Why are you laughing, Uncle Ralph? Ashley asked. I was just thinking about Dancing Penguins, which we're going to see. It should be a very good movie. When they left, I played dumb and asked what unfinished business we had to do. Mel pulled me into her bedroom. I've waited 11 years to put you in my arms again. Please make love to me. But don't forget that we have a 3-hour workday. Honey, I'll only need 3 minutes for the first round. We both started laughing as we undressed. We made it through the Christmas holidays, spending a lot of time together as a family, although we weren't officially married and still lived in separate houses. However, the kids were eager for us to tie the knot as soon as possible. After the holidays, the kids approached us about hosting a big Valentine's Day party. They explained that they chose to call Mel Angie because they already had Andy as their little brother, and it didn't bother anyone. They suggested combining the party with the other kids' birthdays during Valentine's week and turning it into a joint birthday wedding celebration. They proposed guests bring gifts for the other kids, including Angie, even though her birthday was in March. We found their idea endearing, and although we laughed, we were touched by their thoughtfulness. But I felt it was best to defer to Mel on such matters, knowing she would handle it with care. Mel glanced at me, then turned her attention to the kids' hopeful faces. She knew I had passed the decision to her. I avoided meeting her eyes as she deliberated. Finally, Mel spoke up, expressing her surprise at the children's expectation of gifts at their combined party. She gently reminded them of the importance of prioritizing others' needs over their own and expressed disappointment at their assumption. Her words seemed to resonate with the kids who lowered their heads in understanding. Renee interjected, proposing that they forgo the presents to proceed with both the party and our wedding. Mel sought my assistance with her decision, and I managed to maintain a composed expression. Mel agreed to the birthday party and affirmed our wedding plans as a family celebration, but without the expectation of gifts. I was taken aback by her decision, pleasantly surprised that she consented to the family gathering. Mel's unexpected agreement left me feeling caught off guard. The children, overjoyed, embraced Mel and then came to hug me. Update. With a month and a half to prepare, most of the wedding planning fell on Mel's shoulders as I returned to work. Fortunately, Jen was there to lend her support, and they grew close, almost like sisters. They secured a church and pastor for the weekend closest to Valentine's Day, and the color scheme was set, red, white, and hearts galore. The church ladies offered to cook, but we insisted on covering the expenses, including the cake. It was a modest affair, with Jen as matron of honor and Ralph as best man. Our son carried the rings, followed by Andrea and Renee in matching blue dresses, with Ashley as the flower girl. As Mel walked down the aisle, escorted by her father, tears filled my eyes, and I sensed her shared emotions. Despite years of turmoil with my first wife, marrying Mel made me nervous yet overwhelmingly happy. The church was filled with friends and family, and the applause after our kiss sealed the bond. After the ceremony, we were greeted by banners celebrating our marriage and the kids' birthdays. It was a joyous occasion, with birthday cards awaiting each child. Our invitations had mentioned it was a combined celebration, making it a Valentine's Day to remember. We chose to postpone our honeymoon until June when the kids were out of school, opting for a trip to Disney World where we shared rooms. During the day, we enjoyed time with the kids, reserving our nights for closeness behind closed doors, leaving the kids puzzled about our tiredness. Upon returning home each morning, Jen shared her joyous news of expecting her first baby, bringing us happiness for her and Ralph. We decided to sell my house and consolidate into Mel's, ridding ourselves of reminders from the past. With an auction, we sold off furnishings and the house itself. The kids were thrilled with their new bedroom sets, and we wisely invested their insurance checks into individual accounts for their futures, closing the chapter on the accident. Meanwhile, Senator Conroy's re-election by a wide margin highlighted life's unpredictable nature, reminding us that sometimes everything aligns perfectly. I kept Zach's information in a safe, pondering future DNA tests for the kids. For now, the warmth of my children's hugs and their calling me Daddy reaffirms that I made the right choice.